So I'd just like to say hello and greetings and welcome to the second annual Native American Heritage Month for the City of Providence. I am Jacqueline Runstrong McKinney, and I am the project coordinator for the Rhode Island American Indian Heritage Commission. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the Heritage Commission, we formed a little over a year ago. Our mission was, and it still is, to serve as a premier platform to raise awareness about, to raise support for, and to interpret the diversity of Rhode Island's American Indian tribes and communities. And we have a vision of raising the pride of Rhode Island's American Indians. And I hope certainly that tonight's event will do so, and continuing with pride of our Indigenous peoples. I'd like to take this time to thank Mayor Jorge Elorza, the mayor of the City of Providence, and Andi Wheeler, the executive director of the Providence Human Relations Commission, for enabling us to come here and celebrate this today. I'll introduce myself just one more time. I'm Jacqueline Runstrong McKinney. I am a tribal member of the Mashapaug Nahaganset tribe and project coordinator for the Rhode Island American Indian Heritage Commission. I see that the mayor just came in. Welcome, Mayor. And so we'd like to thank you, Mayor Elorza and Andi Wheeler, for enabling us to have this event this evening. And with that, if you don't mind, I'd like to start off with reading land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that Roger Williams founded the settlement of Providence in the lands of the Pokanoket, Nahaganset, and Neimpaug nations, who are the Aboriginal inhabitants and enduring stewards of the lands and waters upon which the City of Providence is now located. We honor the perseverance and continuous presence of these first contact American Indian nations and their continuing relationships with the lands that we all now call home. Let this acknowledgement serve as a reminder of the necessity for ongoing efforts to acknowledge, learn from, and reconcile with the histories and experiences of the Nahaganset, Pokanoket, and Neimpaug, the original inhabitants of the lands and waters that we benefit from today. So with that, I'd like to introduce Mayor Elorza.
All right. Well, thank you, Jacqueline Runstrong, and thank you everybody for joining us for this very, very important moment. And I'm sorry that we can't celebrate and come together as a community in person, but we all understand the extraordinary circumstances that we're under today. But hopefully, we'll be back in full effect next year, doing this in person and doing it the right way. So I also want to thank the Rhode Island American Indian Heritage Commission for being part of this and for inviting me to be part of the event. We're here to honor the leadership, the history, the cultural traditions, and all of the contributions that the various Native nations have made to the that have inhabited these lands since long before they were incorporated as the City of Providence. We also want to recognize the injustices that Native communities have endured across generations. The interesting thing about history is that it's not just something that happened in the past, but it's something that actively shapes the future. That legacy is still enduring within us today. And so it takes active work and active energy and effort on our part to undo those legacies today. And I know that everybody on this call is committed to that task. And I want you to know that you have a strong group of allies, not just right here in the mayor's office, but throughout the City of Providence to help in those endeavors. We're committed to building a responsive system and wherein the principles of self-determination, tribal sovereignty, and environmental justice are all upheld. Today, for the second year, I've signed a proclamation declaring November Native American History Month. And so I'm really proud to do that and to mark this moment and to celebrate with all of you. I also want to take this moment to talk about where we are now and where we are into the future. This moment that we're living through right now, you have to have your head under a rock if you don't appreciate and understand that, this is a turning point. This is an important moment that I hope we will look back on many, many years from now and see as that inflection point that set us down a better path. I think that the community and broader society has much more of an appetite for change at this moment. And I want to make sure that we make the most out of this moment. And that means working together with our Black, Indigenous, people of color communities, and anyone who wants to be an agent of change to make the most out of this moment right now. But in particular, I want to give a shout out to everyone from the Native and Indigenous community that has been part of the ongoing efforts and meetings that we've been having. You all were right in the middle of not just the conversations, but the decisions and then the actions that were taken to literally change the state's name. And the state's name will forever, ever no longer have those words that, frankly, were demoralizing and dehumanizing and were a reminder of that terrible legacy that we were just talking about. But it doesn't stop there. Changing the name is a great start, but there's so much more that we need to do. I know that members of the Indigenous community, they're right at the heart and at the center of the reconciliation work that we're doing as a city. We're taking some of the most divisive issues in our society and actually flipping the script on them and using them as an opportunity to bring people together. And that's exactly what we're doing. And I want to thank everybody who has volunteered their time and given of their energy to help us accomplish that. So in spite of all the challenges that we're facing as a society and as a community during these tough times of COVID, I know that when we put our minds together and when we're working as a team, there's nothing that we can't accomplish in this world. So thank you to everything that you've done, and we will do everything we can to do honor to your legacy as a community that has persevered amidst some of the most harrowing and trying obstacles that any human being in any society has ever faced. But I also want to let you know that as long as I'm in City Hall, you not only have a friend, but you have a brother in arms to move this work forward. So thank you very much to everyone, and I'll hand it back over to Jacqueline Runstrong.
Thank you, Mayor Elorza. Thank you for those words of encouragement and commitment to us. We appreciate it. At this time, I'd like to introduce the Eastern Medicine Singers for a drum performance. EMS is an intertribal American Indian drum group based out of Providence, Rhode Island, who composes and sings songs in the traditional American Indian dialects of southeastern New England. And without further ado.
Maishe
Thank you to the Eastern Medicine Singers. That was wonderful. At this time, since we aren't able to meet together in person, we are going to have a few words from some of our local American Indian tribes. And so now at this time, I'd like to introduce Wauipi Neimpaug, and he is the Sagamore of the Pokanoket Nation.
Tadishka. My name is Wauipi Neimpaug, and I am the Sagamore of the Council of Seven Royal House, Pokanoket tribe of the Pokanoket Nation. I am the 10th generation great-grandson of the Massasoit Osamiquin who welcomed the Pilgrims to this country. Now, Massasoit is a title which means great leader. He was the great leader of one of the largest Indian nations in pre-colonial America. It was sometime during the King Philip War, 1675-1676, that the colonial government outlawed the word Pokanoket. And if you were male, 14 years of age or older, and you said you were Pokanoket, they would kill you on sight. It was at this time that they stopped calling us Pokanoket and began calling us Wampanoag. Today I am here to thank Providence Mayor Elorza for observing a special holiday that was passed in January of 1936, which was known as Rhode Island Indian Day. And this was an act that was passed in the General Assembly in the state of Rhode Island, commemorating the 5 tribes here in Rhode Island. I am standing here today to honor the signing of a bill, the Fenelon Bill, which was signed by Governor Theodore Francis Green, also known as White Buffalo, recognizing Rhode Island Indian Day in the state of Rhode Island. I'm honoring my elders and my family who were present at that signing. One which was my mother, Mrs. Esther Guy, her sister, Mrs. Ruth Ford, her sister's son and daughter, William and Ruthie Ford, my mother's youngest brother, Everett Buddy Whedon, my mother's first cousin, Princess Red Wing, my mother's first cousin, Dr. and Mrs. Carter, and also my mother's first cousin, Mrs. Margaret Carter. As I said, once again, this was at the first signing of the Indian Day Act, which was passed in January, and this Fenelon bill was actually signed in the state reception room in April of 1936. I'd like to thank Mayor Elorza for recognizing and bringing back to life this holiday which was passed at that time. Akwini Aho.
Thank you to the Sagamore of the Pokanoket tribe for that introduction about the Indian Day Act of 1936. And if that's all right, I'd like to read what encapsulates the act. As the Sagamore mentioned, it was passed in the January session of 1936. And its acts and resolves passed by the General Assembly of the state of Rhode Island and Providence plantations. And I'll just go ahead and read what the act states. Chapter 2331, an act in amendment of and in addition to Chapter 294 of the General Laws, entitled of the Indian Tribe, and providing for the observance of a special holiday known as Indian Day, in recognition of the several Indian tribes of Rhode Island, which had so great and significant a place in the history of this state. Whereas, particularly during this tercentenary year, 1936, it is well for the people of this state to recall those historic events which have contributed to the enrichment of the story of the founding and progress of Rhode Island. And whereas no mention of our early history is complete without a rehearsal of the significant place occupied by the Indian tribes of Rhode Island, including the Narragansetts, Wampanoags, Nipmucs, Aquidnecs, and Niantics. It is enacted by the General Assembly as follows. Section 1, Chapter 294 of the General Laws, entitled Of the Indian Tribe, is hereby amended by adding thereto the following section. Section 2. The governor shall annually issue a proclamation setting apart a day as Indian Day and recommending that it be observed by the people of this state with appropriate exercises in the public schools and otherwise commemorative of the Indian tribes of Rhode Island, including the Narragansetts, Wampanoags, Nipmucs, Aquidnecs, and Niantics. Section 2. This act shall take effect upon its passage, and all acts and parts of acts inconsistent herewith are hereby repealed. And this is just a picture of the signatory page passing the act. So thank you again, Mayor. From here, I'd like to introduce Sachem Suki Wompsicuk of the Pocasset Wampanoag tribe of the Pokanoket Nation. And there'll be some remarks from him as well.
Greetings everyone. My name is Suki Wompsicuk, Black Eagle in our language, Darrell Black Eagle, Jameson in our English language. I'd like to thank the Mayor Elorza for the implementation of the Eagle Staff Day and the land acknowledgement at the city of Providence. I am from the Pocasset Wampanoag tribe of the Pokanoket Nation. We are based in both Massachusetts and Rhode Island with land holdings in both places. So we'd like to say thank you on behalf of the tribe, Mayor Elorza, for a great job and continuing to work with the indigenous people of Rhode Island. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sachem Suki Wompsicuk, Black Eagle. I would like to now introduce my chief, Sachem Neesu Wushuwunoag of the Mashapaug Nahaganset tribe.
Wigwusin, Natawama ka Neimpaug, Askata Squamson, Nutuis Neesu Wushuwunoag, Chipunung Sachem to Mashapaug Nahaganset, ka Katasut Sachem to Nahaganset Sonktamok. Akuni. Good day, family and friends. How are you doing? I am Two Hawks, tribal chief of the Mashapaug Nahaganset tribe and the Katasut Sachem of the Nahaganset chiefdom. And peace be unto you as we bring you greetings on behalf of the Mashapaug Nahaganset tribe for the second annual Native American Heritage Month celebration here in the fantastic city of Providence. Just for a little bit of context, we stand here at the peak of Pokanoket Hill, where, if you're familiar with the rich history of the city of Providence and the settlement of Providence, it was at this point in the early 1600s that my Aunt Nomi, the grandfather of both my brother and tribal warrior Mashapaug and myself, stood here with Roger Williams, the founder for the settlement of Providence, and pointed out where the boundaries of the new settlement of Providence would be. So at this very point is a location that is instrumental to the very foundation of this place that we now call Providence, and we thought that it would be fitting to bring you greetings from this very location. We are so pleased and honored to be participating in this second annual Native American Heritage Month. We are so pleased and honored to be having our Eagle staff here. And we are so pleased and honored that we are able to share with you the continuing legacy, history, and heritage of our people who are the ancestral Aboriginal inhabitants of these very lands. For those who may not know, there were several different names and locations and villages and chiefs and warriors and people. There were so many quote-unquote Indians in these lands prior to European contact. And our people have a term, Iniski Tumpawag. That means we are still here because we have never gone anywhere despite the colonial experiences that we have lived through and the false tales that they've told you that there are no more Indians here in these lands. I assure you, the Indian population is alive and well. So on behalf of the Mashapaug Nahaganset tribe, we want to extend thanks to Mayor Jorge Elorza and the city of Providence for allowing us this space to be able to bring these greetings to you. We want to thank all of our tribal members and the chiefs and the warriors who continue to fight to keep the legacy of their people alive. We want to thank you, Providence community and state of Rhode Island, for acknowledging our history and heritage. And we want to say unto you that as we bring you these greetings, that we consider this to be the foundation and the beginning of new and stronger relationships that our peoples will build with all of those who have come to call these lands home since the first point of contact with Roger Williams and the other Europeans that were with him. So we say unto you, O Akwani, which is peace be unto you, and peace Kanash. We hope to see you all soon. On behalf of the Mashapaug Nahaganset tribe, the tribal council, and our tribal chiefs, aho, and thank you for listening to us. Katapatush Wujiachusutam.
Thank you, Chief Two Hawks, for those words. And at this time, I'd just like to give a few tribal acknowledgements before we close out the second annual Native American Indian Heritage Month for the City of Providence. The Rhode Island American Indian Heritage Commission wants to take a moment to acknowledge the diversity of tribal nations that now call Rhode Island home, both the original tribes and those who over time have migrated to Rhode Island. They include the Pocasset Neimpaug tribe, Wushuwunoag Nahaganset tribe, the Ninigret Nahaganset tribe, the Narragansett Indian tribe, the Minnesota tribe, the Namasket tribe, Seekonk Wampanoag, Weekapaug Pequot tribe, the Amonsequath Kiskiak clan of the Senomoko Nation, the Sabuco Bayamon Taino tribe, the Baramea Guaina Taino tribe, and the Batoa Magwe Yaqui Taino tribe. Thank you to all of you for participating, and we hope to see you again next year at our next annual celebration. So in closing remarks, I thank all of the attendees for participating in today's celebration. And again, we thank Mayor Jorge Elorza, the City of Providence, Sagamore, Wauipi, Neimpaug, Sachem Suki Wompsicuk, and Sachem Neesu Wushuwunoag for sharing your remarks. And we thank you, Andi Wheeler, for coordinating this event. If anybody would like to get in touch with the Rhode Island American Heritage Commission, you can reach us at RIAIHC@gmail.com. And we have a Twitter account as well, RIAIHC. And so in closing, I'd also like to thank the Providence Cultural Equity Initiative and Ryan Brown of the Pokanoket tribe and Black Eagle from Black Eagle Productions for producing the film that we saw today. And lastly, I'll introduce the Eastern Medicine Singers for the final performance to close the event out. Thank you again.
Way, ah, way, oh, way. tia we o hey yo. Way o hey yo. Way o hey yo. Una tia we o hey yo. Una tia we o